Hi everybody, I'm going to do another video today. This one is on reports or key reports really. Simple reports to summarise your data. This is really aimed at schools needing to summarise their data for, say, for governors, for external agencies, so obviously for Ofsted, for an Ofsted visit, for a LA advisor or a SIP. What we want are really clear, really simple reports that just kind of cut through all the complexity, just present things in a really, really simple way. I think that schools can really get bogged down in detail with this, and I think we often see head teachers or senior leaders trawling through a huge amount of data. A lot of tracking systems do have a lot of reporting tools, and maybe running hundreds of reports or lots and lots of tables of data and then manually transferring data into a template that they've created, which is obviously really time consuming. If you're using Excel, it can be even worse. You know, you're like literally reduced to filtering columns, writing down numbers, getting your calculator out, working out percentages and things. And actually what we want are just really accessible, really quick to run, quick to access reports that just summarize things in a really simple way that anybody can understand. Okay, so that's what I really wanted to show you now. Now I mentioned that a lot of systems have got like hundreds of reports on offer, but actually I only think for these purposes, I think we only really need 3. We need some kind of overview, we need something that shows progress, and we need something that breaks things down into key group. Now there are caveats with this. I mean, obviously when data is very, very simple, it can't really tell us the full detailed picture, but the point of being a governor, and I am a governor, is that we try and drill down below that and we ask the right questions. So it needs to be the start point for a conversation. Progress matrices I'm a big fan of, and I've done a video on that already. Progress matrices are a useful way of presenting progress, showing progress from key start points, which is critical, without falling into this trap of trying to quantify it, talk about, you know, to quantify it and boil it down to how many steps they've made or points they've made. Just visually displaying the progress from start points and therefore enabling us to ask questions about children who have maybe fallen behind or haven't made the progress we'd expect them to have made. So progress matrix is really useful. And the third one, as I say, is that key group summary report, which breaks the data down by key group. Again, there are caveats to this because we can really obsess about comparing one group to another, but often in primary schools we're talking about very small numbers. And I think Amanda Spielman mentioned this in one of her speeches, where, you know, really we can only really do this with any reliability at, say, national level or LA level. When down to school level, we're breaking it down by key group. It's pretty much just kind of statistical noise, really. But anyway, it's still useful, perhaps, to be able to access that data. So let's get on with it. I'm going to show some key reports now. I'm going to start with this overview of attainment. Really, really simple stuff. So it's automatically come up with year 6, and that's fine. Get rid of that group there. So this is simple stuff. It shows for my current year 6 in the subjects I'm assessing, reading, writing and maths, the proportions of children that are well below, i.e. these are children who are working outside of year group, possibly children with special educational needs, children who are just below, these are children who are broadly working within the age appropriate curriculum but are requiring quite a bit of support. Sometimes people might be referring to those as working towards, for example. These are my secure children, and by secure I don't mean they've obviously covered the entire year's curriculum because it's only autumn, but these are children who are keeping pace. They get what I've taught them so far. They are working securely in the curriculum. I don't have really many concerns about them. And then children who are working above, and obviously some people might be referring to them as working at greater depth, which is what this system does here. So those broad proportions, very useful, and if I click on that, then I can see the pupils in those, and if I click on a pupil's name, then it will take me down to their page, and I can see their assessments over time in each subject, their overall teacher assessment over time. I can see the objectives that have been assessed and their security in those objectives. And maybe there's some other information down here as well, like comments and attachments and things. I've also got test scores in here, so I've got test scores over time. Okay, so some useful information there, but I'll go back to that main report. And that's just for year 6, but if I wanted to, it'd be quite useful to be able to select the whole school or look at other year groups and apply that, and then group by year group. And there we go. So I've now got a comparison of each year group for reading, writing and maths, and that's pretty easy to understand and compare. So that's a useful overview, very visual, not particularly complicated, a good start point for a conversation. Right, just put this back to year 6. So that's my overview of attainment. And now also I want something that's going to summarize progress. So I'm going to use a progress matrix. So this is my second tool. And I want to look at progress from start points. And the start point I'm particularly interested in is Key Stage 1 results. So I'll choose that. And my main assessment is where I store my overall teacher assessment. So I'm going to choose SAT. That's where I'm storing my Key Stage 1 result. And let's have a look to the autumn term. There's a lot of data on there, so I'll just filter it out by gender. Let's choose boys. And there we go. So we've got their start points, and we've got some level 1 children, a couple of whom are currently categorised as well below, so it's a bit of a worry. Some are just below, got quite a few level 1 children who've apparently caught up. And that all looks pretty good. Not really any concerns with that, but you might see in your grid, you might see some 2C children who are still just below, and that might be a worry. You might have some children who are 2B who are just below, and that would also be a concern. So rather than trying to quantify the progress they've made into steps and points and what have you, I'm literally just focusing on individual children, their individual start points and where they are now. And that's really, really simple. And as I've shown before, if I wanted to show this to governors, for example, I can just reduce it down, get rid of the people names, anonymize it like that. Again, I could click on these names and go down to their people pages. Could go back even further if I wanted to. So keep summer term, but I'll change the year back to reception. And I'll change this to EYFSP. And there we go. So we've now got their start point, emerging, expected, exceeding, and these expected children who are well below and just below I'm a little bit concerned about. So I'm going to be asking some questions about that. So there you go. Simple progress matrix, very easy to understand, a good way of presenting progress without falling to that trap of reinventing levels, which is still quite common, sadly. Right, so that's how I'm presenting my progress. Now, the last thing I want to do is have some kind of key group summary report. Now, this system, Insight, which, as you know, I do work with these guys, and I do think it's a great system. Obviously, it's very simple, very easy to use. It's got two options. It's got a fixed key group summary report. It's also got this table tool here, which enables me to build a table, a bit like you would in a spreadsheet. I can call up a table and I can drop columns in, and I can have columns which show for autumn, spring, summer, for reading, writing and maths, the percentage that are, say, are age related, and I could put in another column for their average standardized score, and then another column for the percentage of objectives achieved, or something like that. I could put in a column for their Key Stage 1 prior attainment and their foundation stage prior attainment. I could put in a column that shows the percentage of children that are age related in 3 subjects combined. I can put a change column in, so it shows the change in, say, percentage at age related in 2 points in time. So I basically build a table, and I can have exactly the columns that I want, and when I've done that, I can save it, and then I never have to do it again. I just run it, and it will always run with the latest data. That's really useful. I'm not going to show it now. I will do a video on that specifically at some point. What I want to run now is just the key group summary table. So just get rid of that filter. So we run this one. Now, let's choose my base data, and this one I'm going to base on do maths, and I'm going to base it on a test. So let's run this. So what I've got here is a key group summary table for my year 6. Obviously I could change the year group there if I wanted to. For maths, broken down by all the key groups, the numbers of children in those groups, and as I said earlier, beware about small numbers. I've got average standardized score in my reading Rising Stars test, could be a GL test, could be an NFER test. Progress through the year, well, by progress what I really mean is change. So it's change in their standardized score and the average standardized score over time. And some of these numbers are quite crazy numbers. I mean, this is randomly generated data, by the way. And then based on a threshold that I've set, the percentage of children that are at or above age-related, or at or above expectation, at or above where I expect them to be. So I've chosen, in this system, I've chosen 95 as my threshold, which is capturing those children who are in the top 63% nationally. And one would assume that if they are consistently in the top 63% nationally, then they are probably going to go on to achieve the expected standard, because you were talking about 70 or 75% these days choosing expected standard. So I think I'm pretty on safe ground using that as my threshold. You might go lower. I think Rising Stars recommend using 94. Okay, so that's a threshold that I've decided on. A lot of schools are still falling into this trap of using 100, and if you use 100 in a standardized test, you're only capturing the top 50%. So you're sort of doing yourself out really of a few children probably. You're not maybe counting enough, and your numbers might look too low. But anyway, however you want to do it, you know, you choose how you do it, and I've set it at 95 in this system. So there we go. That's a key group summary report. Very neat and all neatly laid out. So I've got an overview of attainment. Those bars that I showed you originally. I've got a progress matrix which presents the progress from start points and children, where they were and where they are now. And then I've got a key group summary table which summarises the performance based on teacher assessment perhaps, or on a standardised test score as I have here, for each of the key groups in the cohort. Other than that, I really don't know what else I would need. I think that is plenty for presenting data to governors, to LA advisors, to SIPs and to Ofsted inspectors. I think that ticks all the boxes. I think that should cover all your needs. Hope that's useful, and I will come back soon and do another video. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.